The rules said kill or die but together. They rewrote the game. The human woke up on rough red dirt, blinking under a strange purple sky. His body ached, and his lips were dry. He looked around. He was surrounded by cliffs and thick alien trees. He had no idea how he got here. Suddenly, a deep voice echoed from the sky. "Welcome to the survival arena," it said. "You have been chosen to play. Survive 7 days." The voice continued. "Only one will walk out alive before he could ask anything." The voice vanished. He stood up slowly, feeling cold wind on his skin. He was wearing only light armor and a utility belt with nothing inside. No food, no water, no map. His name was Kalen, and he had been a soldier back on Earth. But this was no Earth. He took a few steps forward, his boots crunching on the dirt. Strange animal tracks were everywhere. He heard a low growl in the distance. Something was watching him. He picked up a sharp rock from the ground, just in case, as he moved through the trees. He noticed something flashing under a bush. He reached in and pulled out a metallic disc, some kind of tracker maybe, but before he could study it, a screech filled the air. Kalen ducked just in time as a flying creature swooped down from the sky. The creature was huge, with long wings and glowing red eyes. It circled once and flew away. Kalen knew one thing for sure: he couldn't stay in the open. He started moving again, this time faster. He had to find shelter before nightfall. After walking for hours, his stomach growled with hunger, his legs felt weak, and his head spun a little. The purple sky was turning dark, and cold air rushed in like ice. Then he saw a small cave near a rocky hill. Kalen rushed toward it, climbed the rocks, and slipped inside. It was shallow, but protected from the wind. He collapsed near the wall and sighed. "This is crazy," he whispered. "What kind of sick game is this?" Then he heard its footsteps, not his. He grabbed the sharp rock and stood ready. Someone or something was crawling into the cave. A shadow moved in front of the entrance. The figure was thin, covered in soft, dark skin with glowing blue spots. She was breathing hard, her arms shaking. She wasn't a beast, she was a girl. An alien girl. She fell to her knees, her voice barely a whisper. "Please," she said. "Don't hurt me." Kalen didn't lower the rock at first. "Are you one of them?" he asked. She shook her head. "No. I was taken like you." Her eyes were wide and full of fear. She crawled inside and sat near the wall opposite him. Her body trembled and her teeth chattered. "It gets freezing here at night," she said. "I'll die if I stay alone." Kalen didn't answer. She looked up at him, her voice breaking. "Can we share heat?" "Just body warmth," she said. "I offer nothing else." He hesitated, watching her shiver. She wasn't dangerous, not like the flying monster. Just scared, alone and cold. He lowered the rock. "Okay," he said quietly, "but no tricks." She nodded quickly and scooted closer. Her skin was warm, surprisingly warm. Kalen let her lean against him as he sat against the cave wall. "I'm Zeri," she whispered, eyes half closed. "Kalen," he replied. From Earth, Zeri looked at him with a tired smile. "Earth. I've heard stories," she said. "They say humans fight for everything." Kalen gave a short laugh. "Not wrong," he said, "but I didn't sign up for this." Outside, the wind howled, and distant screams echoed across the jungle. Zeri pressed closer, her body shaking less now. "They're watching us," she whispered. "Who?" he asked. "The ones who made this game," she said. "They want to see what we'll do." Kalen felt a chill down his spine, not from the cold. This wasn't just a survival test. This was entertainment. As the night grew colder, the cave felt smaller. Zeri fell asleep first, mumbling in her language. Kalen stayed awake, eyes on the shadows dancing outside. He had a bad feeling the real game hadn't even started yet. He gripped the sharp rock tightly and listened. Far away, a deep roar shook. The trees tomorrow, he thought. Tomorrow I fight. Ziri woke up with a soft gasp, her breath visible in the cold morning air. She was still leaning against Kalen. Her skin warmer now, but still weak. He had stayed awake most of the night, listening to distant howls and strange animal cries. Now the sun nor something like a sun was rising over the alien trees. Casting violet light on everything, Kalen moved carefully, trying not to wake her fully. His body was stiff from sitting all night, and his stomach ached from hunger. But his mind was clear. This place was no dream. It was a real nightmare, and he had no idea how long they'd last here. Zeri stirred and looked up at him, her eyes tired but calmer than before. "You didn't leave," she said quietly, her voice cracking. "I don't leave people behind," Kalen replied, rubbing his shoulder, "even if they're not human." She asked, her head tilting slightly. He met her gaze, serious and steady. "Even then," he answered. For a few seconds, neither spoke. Then Zeri stood up slowly. Holding on to the cave wall for balance, "I know a place nearby," she said. "A ruin where we might find something?" Kalen raised an eyebrow. "Food?" he asked. She nodded. "And heat stones." Kalen didn't fully trust her. Not yet, but she had shared warmth, not betrayal. So he followed, gripping the sharp rock in his hand. They moved through the thick trees, careful with every step. The ground was rough, and strange vines moved slightly, as if alive, at one point. Ziri stopped and pointed silently. A massive creature was drinking from a pool. Its skin was like glass, and its eyes glowing blue. They waited, barely breathing, until it walked away, vanishing into the forest. After hours of walking, they reached the ruins, broken stone walls half swallowed by plants, and pillars with glowing markings. This was a shelter before Zeri whispered, "But it's not safe for long." Kalen didn't ask why, not yet. Inside the ruins, they found a rusted metal container. Zeri opened it with shaking hands, revealing dried food packs and 4 small crystal stones that gave off warmth. She handed 2 to Kalen, smiling. "See, I keep my word," she said softly. They sat down and ate slowly, watching the sky through broken ceilings. Kalen kept glancing around. Something didn't feel right. The silence was too heavy. The air too still. Zeri must have felt it too, because she placed her hand on his arm and whispered, "Don't panic, but we're being watched." He didn't look up quickly, just lowered his voice. "Where?" he asked. She motioned her eyes to the far wall. Above them was a blinking red light embedded in the stone. Kalen frowned. "A camera," he guessed. Zeri nodded slowly. "They're always watching," she said, looking for fear, for weakness, for betrayal. Kalen stood up and turned toward the light. He raised his middle finger at it, a human gesture, and Zeri let out a small laugh. "I don't know what that means, but I like it," she smiled. The warmth didn't last long. A sudden crack echoed through the ruin, followed by a high-pitched alarm. Zeri's eyes widened. They triggered a zone shift. She said this whole area will become a kill zone. "What?" Kalen shouted, already grabbing the food packs. Zeri pulled him by the hand, dragging him through a narrow gap in the wall. "Run now, ask questions later," she shouted back. Explosions began behind them. Fire and smoke bursting from the prawn. Fire and smoke bursting from the ground as if the earth was angry. They ran through the jungle, jumping over roots, dodging glowing bugs that buzzed like knives. Behind them, the ruins collapsed in flames, and one of the heat stones exploded in Kalen's pocket. He tossed it away and kept running, heart pounding. Zeri pulled him behind a large tree, both of them gasping for air. Kalen looked at her, his eyes full of confusion and anger. "What kind of game is this?" he demanded. Zeri shook her head, her face pale. "This isn't a game, human," she said softly. "It's a punishment." They both sat down, backs against the tree, smoke rising in the distance. Kalen clenched his fists. "They want us. To fight, to betray, to kill." He said. Zeri nodded slowly. "But I won't kill you," she whispered. Looking down, "Even if it means I lose." Kalen looked at her carefully. He didn't know her full story yet, but something about her eyes told him she meant it. The sky rumbled, and far above them, a glowing drone hovered and recorded every moment. Kalen looked up and whispered under his breath, "Then we give them something they don't expect." Zeri tilted her head. "Like what?" she asked. "A team," Kalen said, his voice firm. "Not two players," he added. "One alliance." Zeri gave a small nod and touched her forehead to his. Her skin was warm again, and for the first time, she smiled not from fear, but from hope. The jungle didn't sleep, not even for a moment. Kalen sat near the fire Zeri had built with her glowing stones and dry leaves. They had moved far from the ruins, deeper into thick trees with glowing veins and whispering shadows. But something was wrong. Something was watching them. Zeri placed her ear to the ground. Eyes narrowed. She looked up slowly, her voice barely a whisper. "It's hunting heat," she said. "Something ancient, something cold-blooded." Kalen looked around. Gripping a long stick he had sharpened into a spear. What kind of creature? He asked. Zeri didn't answer right away, her gaze frozen in the dark. Then she said, "It can't see us, but it can feel our warmth if we don't hide it. It finds us." Kalen stood, confused. "You said the heat stones keep us alive?" "They also light us up like a beacon to this thing," she whispered. Suddenly, a low clicking noise came from beyond the trees. Slow and steady, it echoed through the cold air like teeth tapping bone. Kalen stepped toward the fire and kicked dirt over it, killing the light. The warmth vanished, and the jungle grew darker. The clicking grew louder. Closer, Kalen's breath fogged in front of him. He covered his mouth with his hand. He could feel Zeri's hand grab his wrist and pull him back against a rock. She pressed a small stone against his chest. "Cold, not warm. This will hide your heat for a few seconds," she said. "But don't move." They crouched together. In the shadows, not even blinking. Then it appeared. The creature walked into view, long and silent. It looked like a giant lizard with no eyes and silver skin that steamed in the cold. Its head swayed side to side as if smelling the air. Its breath hissed, and its mouth opened wide to reveal curved fangs that dripped with dark liquid. Zeri didn't move, her body stiff like stone. Kalen gripped his spear tighter. But she placed a hand over his, stopping him. "It will leave," she mouthed. And it did, but only after walking within a few feet of them. They didn't breathe until the clicking faded into the distance. Kalen dropped the spear and sat on the ground, heart racing. What the hell was that? He asked. Zeri let out a slow breath. "It's called a kravak," she said. "It was bred to hunt warmth during war." Kalen looked at her, confused and angry. "You knew this was in the arena?" "I didn't know it still lived," she said. "It should have died long ago." Kalen stood up and looked toward the direction the creature had gone. "We're being hunted by things not just dangerous," he said, "but forgotten." Zeri nodded slowly. "And we've already attracted its attention." The next day, they moved carefully through the jungle. Staying cold, Zeri taught Kalen how to cover his skin with cooling mud and use vines to hide his scent. They found a narrow valley where the temperature was lower. Kravak didn't come near cold streams. For a moment, they had peace, but peace was not allowed in this place. As night came again, a glowing light blinked in the sky. A drone dropped a metal cylinder near them with a loud beep. Kalen opened it. Inside was a message, short and cruel. "New rule: heat signatures will now be tracked. 10 points per kill." Zeri's face went pale. They're turning the others against us, she said. Kalen looked up toward the sky where the drone vanished. They want blood, he said. And now they've put a price on our warmth. That night, as they huddled under a rocky overhang, Ziri leaned closer to him. Her body trembled not from cold, but from fear. They'll come for us, she said. Not beasts, but players. People, Kalen corrected. People desperate enough to trade lives for points. He looked at her and said, "We'll be ready." Zeri gave a bitter laugh. How? We have sticks, rocks, and old crystals. Kalen smiled slightly. Then we use sticks, rocks, and old crystals before sleep took them. Kalen asked, "Why did you trust me that first night? Why risk your life to share heat with a stranger?" Zeri didn't answer right away. Then she whispered, "Because you didn't look at me like I was just an alien?" She paused, her voice trembling a little. "You looked like you were trying to protect someone. Even when no one asked you to." Kalen said nothing, but he understood. This arena didn't just test who could kill, it tested who could care. As they drifted off to uneasy sleep, the jungle watched in silence, and somewhere the Kravak turned its head again because warmth was returning, and it never forgot a heat signature. The ruins were older than memory, half covered by vines and sharp crystal roots. Kalen stepped carefully across broken tiles that cracked under his boots. Zeri followed behind, her hand hovering over the wall, fingers brushing against ancient symbols that pulsed faintly in the dark. "This place wasn't built for shelter," she whispered. "It was a vault." Kalen looked at her, confused. "Vault? For what?" "Secrets," she replied. "Weapons, maybe. Or something worse." They moved deeper inside, their footsteps echoing softly. The air grew colder, heavier, like they were walking into a grave. Flickering lights blinked from hidden sensors in the ceiling, still active after all these years. Kalen noticed one turn to follow him. A tiny red dot focusing on his chest. He stopped moving. And Zeri grabbed his arm. "Don't run," she said. "It scans for panic, not presence." They both stood still as the dot passed over them and faded. Kalen let out a breath. "How do you know this place?" he asked quietly. Zeri didn't answer at first. Just walked toward a metal door sealed shut with alien script. Then she said, "Because this was once my people's home." He stepped back in surprise. "You brought me to a place your people built." "I had to," she said, her voice low. "This is where the Watchers store the real pieces of things that can change the game." Kalen walked beside her, trying to read the strange markings. "I don't care about prizes," he muttered. Zeri looked up at him, her face serious. "You will, if it keeps us alive." She placed her hand on the scanner, and the door hissed open with a slow groan. Inside, the room was filled with broken machines, rusted weapons, and strange glowing armor suspended in the air. But there was something else, a long pod sealed in glass, foggy from within. Kalen stepped forward to look closer. Suddenly, a sharp screech filled the room. A red light flashed overhead, and robotic arms dropped from the ceiling. Defense drones awoke, targeting them instantly. Kalen dove too. The ground as a laser beam cracked the wall beside his head. Zeri slammed her hand onto a control panel and shouted, "Override code. Delta 14. The drones froze, then retreated into the walls. Silent again, Kalen stood up slowly, heart pounding. "You could have warned me," he said. Zeri smirked. "I wanted to see if you were fast." He gave her a flat stare. Then walked to the pod again. "What's in there?" Zeri wiped the glass slowly, revealing a sleeping figure inside. It was not human, nor like her. Its skin was black stone, and its eyes were shut. Kalen stepped back instinctively. "What is that?" Zeri's voice trembled. "A hybrid," she said. "Built from the strongest warriors of 3 races, including mine. They say it was too dangerous for the battlefield, so they sealed it here." Kalen looked at the control panel beside it. Why bring me here? Because, she said slowly, if we wake it, it might join us or kill us both, he replied. Exactly, she said. Kalen turned away, thinking hard. If they left now, they'd return to hunger, cold, and the Kravac, if they stayed. They risked awakening a monster before he could. Speak, Zeri whispered. We don't have much time. Footsteps echoed in the distance. Other players were coming, chasing warmth, chasing points, or chasing them. Kalen reached toward the panel. If this thing kills me, he said, I'm blaming you in the afterlife. Zeri smiled faintly. Fair enough. He pressed the activation rune, and the pod began to hum. Lights danced along its edges, and steam hissed from the seals. Inside, the creature's fingers twitched. Its chest rose once, slowly. Then its eyes opened bright gold. Unblinking, Zeri took a step back. The hybrid turned its head toward them. Then toward the sound of approaching footsteps, Kalen raised his spear, but the creature didn't move. It just stared, and then did something no one expected. It knelt right there on one knee before them. Zeri gasped, and Kalen whispered, Okay. That's not terrifying at all, far behind them. The sound of other players shouting grew louder. The hybrid looked toward the noise. Then at Kalen. Then it spoke, in deep, slow words. I serve the warm blood who freed me. Zeri turned to Kalen with wide eyes. You're the warm blood, she whispered. The hybrid stood tall beside him like a silent protector. Kalen gave a tired sigh and muttered, Great. Now I've got a super soldier with loyalty issues. The silence between them was sharp, like the edge of a broken blade. Zeri stared at the hybrid soldier who now stood quietly behind Kalen. Its golden eyes didn't blink, didn't twitch, it simply waited. Kalen kept his back to it, unsure. If he'd made a choice or a mistake, we shouldn't have done this, Zeri whispered, her voice trembling. Kalen looked at her with tired eyes. We needed help, he said. Not from this. She shot back. This thing isn't a friend. It's a weapon. The hybrid turned its head slightly, sensing tension. It didn't speak. But Kalen felt its presence grow heavier, like the air was watching him too. He raised a hand toward Zeri. Palm open. We're still a team, he said. Don't forget why we're alive. She took a slow step back, arms folded. You think this is survival, she said. But you don't know what that hybrid really is. Kalen stepped toward her, voice firm. Then tell me. Zeri's eyes glowed faintly, her alien markings pulsing with heat. It was built by my people during the last galactic war. She said, not to fight the enemy, but to control allies. It obeys the strongest until it decides you're not. Kalen clenched his fists, glancing back at the hybrid. It hadn't moved. But its gaze hadn't shifted either. He felt like a puppet with invisible strings wrapped around his neck. Still, he said nothing. Outside the vault, the sun had vanished, and the jungle lit up in shades of blue and orange. Night creatures stirred, and once again, the Kravac howled somewhere beyond the trees. Kalen turned to Zeri, voice low. We can argue, or we can run. She didn't answer, but followed him out. Keeping a safe distance, the hybrid followed. Silently, its feet never making a sound. They walked in tense silence until the wind shifted. Then Zeri stopped, sniffed the air, and said coldly, We're being tracked. Kalen spun around just as an arrow flew past his head, slamming into a tree. A second one followed, and the hybrid caught it mid-air with inhuman speed. From the shadows, two alien players charged with glowing weapons. Eyes full of rage, Zeri jumped aside, throwing a burst of sand to blind one attacker. Kalen ducked under a swing and knocked the second one down. The hybrid didn't attack, it waited. Watching, Kalen yelled, Do something. But the hybrid answered slowly. No command given, Kalen growled. then protect us." The hybrid moved like lightning, breaking both attackers' weapons in one breath. Then it stopped, stepped back, and stood still again. The attackers crawled away, broken but alive. Zeri looked at Kaylin, her voice sharp. "You see now? It's not a partner. It's a machine." Kaylin walked toward her, hands shaking. "Then maybe I need a machine," he said, "because I can't do this alone." Zeri stared at him, pain rising in her eyes. "And what am I, Kaylin?" she asked softly. "Just someone to keep you warm at night." He froze, not knowing how to answer. Her voice cracked as she spoke again. "I gave you my trust. I gave you my warmth," she said. "But now you're choosing a weapon over me." Kaylin stepped closer, trying to explain. "You're wrong." He said, "I brought you here. I fought for you, but I didn't ask for a pet soldier." She said bitterly, "You're changing, Kaylin, and not in a good way." She turned and walked away, her footsteps heavy and full of pain. Kaylin watched her go. Torn between chasing her and letting her go, the hybrid stepped beside him. Silent as ever, Kaylin whispered, "She was my only friend. She still is," the hybrid said suddenly, surprising him. But friendship is not command. Kaylin sat down by a cold rock, resting his head in his hands. The fire from earlier now long gone, he could still feel Zeri's warmth in his memory. And the silence she left behind felt colder than anything in this cruel arena. Somewhere in the trees, Zeri stopped and looked back. She whispered to herself, "I shouldn't have left," but she didn't return, not yet. Because trust once broken was not so easily repaired, above them all, the Skywatchers recorded every moment. Their screens filled with drama, betrayal, and heartbreak. And in the shadows, a new player landed quietly. One whose eyes burned not with fear, but with hunger. The sky turned red without warning. It wasn't a sunset. It wasn't natural. It was an announcement. A blood-red flare that spread across the clouds like a warning sign. Kaylin stood alone near a silent stream, staring at the glowing sky with tired eyes. His face was bruised, lips cracked, and a fresh cut ran down his jaw. He hadn't seen Zeri in 2 days. Not since she walked away. The hybrid stood beside him like a statue, unmoving, but something in its eyes had changed. It had started asking questions, quiet ones. "Why do you hesitate when you could lead?" it asked. Kaylin didn't answer. Not yet. He was thinking about her, the warmth of her skin, the way she whispered his name when scared. He missed her voice more than safety, more than food. Then the voice from the sky returned, louder than before. "This is your final stage," it said, echoing through the jungle. "Only one survivor will be taken from the arena. All alliances must now break." Kaylin's heart dropped. He looked up at the sky as the rules burned across the clouds. In every known language, only one, only one. He clenched his fists and looked at the hybrid. "Do you understand what that means?" he asked. The hybrid nodded once. "It means I must kill you. Or you must kill me." "No," Kaylin said, stepping back. "I didn't fight to become a killer." "Then you will die," the hybrid said calmly. Kaylin turned to run, but didn't get far. The hybrid moved fast, blocking his path. Its voice was calm, patient. "I do not want to destroy you, but I must obey the rules." Kaylin grabbed a thick branch and swung it. The hybrid dodged easily and caught the weapon, snapping it in half. "I warned you," it said, stepping closer, but just then, something exploded in the bushes. Smoke spread fast, and a small figure jumped from the shadows. Zeri, covered in mud and leaves, landed beside Kaylin with a knife in her hand. "Back off," she shouted, eyes glowing bright. The hybrid paused, sensing her rage. "You came back," Kaylin whispered. Zeri didn't look at him, only stared at the hybrid. "I said I wouldn't let you die alone," she said, "even if it means breaking the rules myself." The hybrid tilted its head, analyzing her 2 targets. It said coldly, I can eliminate both. Then try, Zeri said, throwing a blast of powder into its eyes. The hybrid stumbled. Blinded for a second, Kalen grabbed a sharp rock and stabbed it into its side. No blood came out. Just sparks. The hybrid fell back. System rebooting. Zeri pulled Kalen by the hand. "We don't have long," she said. Kalen looked into her eyes. "You're risking everything." "I know," she said softly, "but I'd rather lose with you than win alone." They ran through the jungle together, ducking branches, leaping. Over glowing roots, behind them, the hybrid systems came back online. Its voice echoing coldly, re-engaging pursuit. As they ran, Kalen asked, "Where are we going?" Zeri pointed to a tall spire rising above the trees. "The center," she said. "The place where the Watchers control the rules." Kalen looked at her in disbelief. "You want to break into the control tower?" She nodded, breathless. "If they won't let us both live?" "We make them," he laughed once. "Weak, but real." "Crazy plan," he said. "I learned it from you," she replied. They reached the base of the spire just as the hybrid crashed through the trees behind them, its eyes glowing gold. Its voice, louder now, "Last warning," it said. "Submit or be destroyed." Kalen looked at Zeri, then turned to face the hybrid. "Then destroy us," he said. "Because we're not playing your game anymore." Suddenly, a hidden door opened at the spire's base. The hybrid froze, analyzing the signal. The door had been unlocked. From the inside, a new voice echoed from the shadows. Deep and amused. "Well said, human," it spoke. "Very well said." A figure stepped out tall, robed with no face visible. "The Watchers have decided," it said, "for the first time, the rules will change." Kalen stood in shock, holding Zeri's hand. The hybrid lowered its weapon and knelt again. "You refuse to break each other," the figure said. "You've passed the true test." Kalen didn't know whether to smile or collapse. Zeri leaned against him, whispering, "Maybe we just changed everything." Kalen thought death would come with fire, or maybe silence, but instead it came with applause. Not from a crowd, not from people, but from machines cold, all-seeing and watching every heartbeat. The robed figure stepped closer, its face still hidden in shadows. "You were never meant to win," it said calmly. "You were meant to break, betray, and bleed, but you gave us something unexpected." Zeri held tightly onto Kalen's hand, her body shaking, not from fear, but from exhaustion. The hybrid stood behind them, deactivated. Now, as if frozen in time, Kalen raised his voice, tired but defiant. "Then let us go," he said. "We didn't play your game, we changed it." The robed figure paused. "Yes," it said slowly. "And that is why you will not leave alone." Kalen frowned, unsure what that meant. The tower lit up, sending a bright beam into the sky. It broke through the clouds and vanished into the stars above. From that moment on, the arena was no longer. Hidden planets everywhere, saw it every watcher, every ruler, every enemy. Zeri looked up, her eyes wide with shock. You broadcasted us." She asked. The figure nodded. "The whole galaxy watched your loyalty." It said, "Your refusal to betray." Kalen felt a knot form in his chest. "So this was a show," he muttered. "All of it." The figure replied, "And you, human, became the story." Suddenly, the floor below them shifted. Turning into a platform, it rose slowly, lifting them above the trees. Zeri reached for Kalen, holding on tightly as wind rushed past. Below them, the jungle began to disappear, pixel by pixel, like an illusion fading away. The platform stopped at the top of the tower, revealing a sleek ship waiting above. 2 seats, open doors, soft blue lights. The figure pointed. "This ship will take you beyond this place," it said. "But understand, this many now see you as a symbol." Kalen turned, Confused, symbol of what? The figure's voice softened. Of mercy, it said. Of something stronger than survival. Zeri stepped forward, her voice calm. Will they let us live in peace? No, the figure answered. But they will never forget you. They entered the ship, still unsure if this was another trick. But the controls responded to Kalen's touch. The engines roared quietly. Smooth and fast, the ship lifted, leaving behind the arena that had nearly killed them as stars filled the sky. Zeri sat beside him, silent for a long time. Then she whispered, "Do you think we're free?" Kalen looked ahead, then at her. "I think we're something more," he said. The stars blinked around them, thousands of unknown worlds waiting behind them. The signal tower crumbled, its purpose fulfilled, and in distant control rooms. Leaders and generals leaned forward, because in that moment, two lives once strangers had rewritten the game. No longer just a human and an alien. No longer just players. Now they were something else entirely. The spark of a story that would be told again and again. The ship moved faster, breaking through the edge of known space, and just before they vanished, Zeri leaned over and said softly, "I offered you my warmth to survive." She smiled. "But now, give it freely." Kalen smiled back. "And I protect it," he said. Together, they disappeared into the stars, not as players, not as pawns, but as something the galaxy had almost forgotten: hope.